Let's get into seawalls, docks, and boat lifts. All right. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty details of construction because that is another session, but we will touch on some things. Always do an inspection. Always. It's the most expensive part of waterfront property to get replaced. You think a roof is expensive, try replacing a seawall. The inspection isn't expensive, but the seawalls are. Okay. So always do that. And you should be looking for all types of things, but your seawall inspection should include an inspection of the dock structure and all the piles and batter pilings, things like that. We see this all the time, just deferred seawall maintenance. People buy a waterfront home and then 10 years later, they haven't done a single thing to that seawall. I know on the waterfront properties that I've owned, and I'm in the business, so I know this. Every 2-3 years, I have a guy come over and, he goes down and swims along the bottom and does basically a quickie inspection for me, just like I would do, as part of a purchase inspection. And frequently there's things like seams and things that need to be filled in. So when you're walking along a seawall, and you should be doing this, all right, you should be doing this on the first showing. There are things you can look for. You're not an inspector, okay, but look for bowing, okay? It should be a nice straight seawall. If it's bowing one way or the other, that's a red flag, okay? You're looking for cracks. Surface cracks on a seawall, a lot of times are not a big deal, but if they are way down into the foundation, that can be a problem. And then seepage, okay? This is the number one thing. I mentioned the seams. So seawalls are built in sections and they have seams in between them. Every once in a while, you got to have someone go down there and fill in those seams, all right? And if you don't, what happens is the backfill or the soil next to the seawall, when it rains and when there's erosion, it actually funnels through those seams and creates, and you've all seen these, they're like big kind of sinkholes, they can start small and all of a sudden they get very big quickly. That can be a huge problem. You do not want to have that. If you see that at a property you're showing, that's a red flag, because what happens is that affects the structural integrity of that seawall. All right. And I've seen this happen. That seawall actually, without that backfill, could potentially collapse. So that's something you want to take care of. You want to fill those seams and you want to refill that backfill. All right. And it's not expensive. This is just regular maintenance. It should be done. Okay. Docks. Want to inspect your dock as well. A lot of docks have power. A lot of docks have water, lights, cable, all kinds of things. So they're just like homes. Okay. They have all these different things and systems that need to be inspected. So make sure your inspector is covering those things as well. And then the structural condition, just take a look at it. The decking may look great, but underneath, all right, may be a problem. Okay. So decking is not that expensive to replace. And I've seen it over and over again. A lot of people will replace the decking, but they will not replace the underlying structure. So that structure could be in bad shape and it may be time to replace that. A good inspector, when he comes up from under the water after looking at the seawall, will look up and see what the under the dock structure looks like. Okay, boat lifts. If it's included, okay, make sure that the owner's boat is going to fit there. All right. Now every boat lift has a maximum weight limit. And to be safe, you should really, so for example, if you have a 12,000 pound boat, you should probably have a lift that is more in the 15,000 or more range to give you a little extra buffer. So make sure it's big enough for the boat, or for the buyer's boat anyway. And then, another big thing. Oh, and by the way, if it's not included, all right, sometimes, sellers will say, hey, I'm going to take it with me. Okay. Now, this is where it gets tricky because where are they going to take it? And they're going to, are they going to get it out before closing? Do they have a permit to install it at their new property? That can get complicated, but people do take their lifts with them. But if they are going to leave it behind, make sure it's going to work for the buyer. Otherwise, that buyer's going to have to get it removed and start all over with a new permit and everything. And was it permitted? Okay. Mysteriously, I've seen this happen. It's really strange. It's kind of like those crop circles that, you see out, in Kansas and Iowa and places like that. Aliens somehow install boat lifts in the middle of the night. I've seen it. It happens. Okay. So if that happened, all right, then you will not be able to find the permit because aliens don't apply for permits. They're known for that. So, and I'm joking, of course, but make sure that lift was permitted, because if it wasn't, that could be a huge problem. This isn't like a small electrical permit or something. This is a major deal. Make sure that lift is permitted. And if not, you might want to be careful about closing on that property with that lift there.